two best viewers. All right, we are here. We were here before too. I just, you know, don't quite have my shit together always, ever. I mean, it's together, but you know.
Well, I mean, that's debatable.
How you doing today, Sir Paul?
I'm doing well. Sir John, how are you?
Doing fair, doing fair. Got back from the gym maybe about an hour or two ago. Like my legs are a little tired.
Oh, yeah? Didn't skip leg day today?
I never skip leg day. I do full body day. So
Best way to go about it.
yes.
So is that kind of what your workouts look like now? Is just an I mean, you'd said this a couple of times before, but you do a couple of upper body days or full body days, and then how's that work?
So I just do two right now. Uh, lifting days. That's not true. I go hang out with my dad. So I do about 3 lifting days.
Mm-hmm.
The 2 days by myself are pretty much full body. So I'll do a lower body move, like a heavy hip hinge complex, like a deadlift.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other day I'll do more of a squat complex.
Okay.
And then for the upper body, I've been pretty consistent right now, kind of working around this right shoulder. So it's some sort of combination of some overhead pulling, like pullovers, and then
Like anteriorly or
I'll lay
okay. All
supine,
right.
laying supine, doing lat pull throughs or pullovers.
Okay.
Now, I
Right
do
on.
that more. So I use kind of this lateral stretch that we talked about the other day.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I use that kind of as a warm up or tune up, as it were, right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been finding that has nice success for helping get things to sit nicely, as it were.
Okay.
But yeah.
Okay.
And then
So
today I ended with some
so
calves too.
okay. That was the question I was just about to ask.
I'll go do arms tomorrow with my pops. So my pops, he does about 30 to 40 minutes. That's about all
Mm-hmm.
he can mentally stand, I think.
How often does your pops go to the gym?
I want to say 3 times right now, but at least twice, depending on how his
Okay.
schedule is.
So on that note, what when you are talking to a client, a new client, I mean, this isn't really my wheelhouse with regard like in my purview. So what is your recommendation for when a client comes to you and they say, well, I want these goals, and let's just say that the nutrition is moderately dialed in.
Mm-hmm.
What is your recommendation for the amount of frequency a person is going to have to observe?
I mean, I forget. I haven't looked at what the latest studies say, but from my experience, I feel it's you're doing 2 days a week, somewhere around 30 minutes to an hour. You're going to get kind of that marginally maintenance, as it were.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going from not anything at all, right, you're going to have some change and some growth and all that. But you'll kind of hit a normal. It's like a maintenance level. You hit that 3rd day, and that's where things can really, I feel, kind of take off for a lot of people, and you really kind of seeing that growth or change. But even then, you're looking probably at a minimum for a month before people start noticing, month and a half before people start noticing any real changes to you. And you won't really probably start noticing the changes for about 2 to 3 months of that consistent workout.
So then what do the 4 and 5 and 6 days a week do for people?
Well, it depends on, I guess, what your goals are too, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, if you've a seasoned worker outer person and you've been exercising consistently for a long period of time, right? You've adapted in a lot of cases to be able to handle that kind of volume. And so in
Mm-hmm.
some cases people will, do longer, an hour session, maybe 5 days a week. But they're
Mm-hmm.
doing splits is typically how I'll refer to it. So they'll do all arms, all chest, or all back, or all legs. And then we break it up into 5 various body parts, however you like to dice it. And you just rotate it week in, week out, and you just hit the whole body over it. Now, I've seen some people kind of make arguments with, there's lies, damn lies, and statistics.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're making an argument saying like, with a full body routine, you can hit your body parts more frequently versus when you
Mm-hmm.
hit a bro split or a 5-part split. You just hit them that one time, and then the rest of the week they never get any attention, so to speak. And so you actually
Mm-hmm.
don't get the same type of stimulus potentially. But again, that's I think to also a little bit of to each their own, and how does each chef like to cook in the kitchen?
So okay,
And I would
so
also make this
then
start to cut you off there. The other thing too be like if you're going to do 5-6 days, maybe you're only doing 30-minute workouts.
mhm.
And then on the off days, maybe you're doing some sort of yoga or maybe some other high activity. Like I've got clients that do horseback riding or sailboating. So those are going to be high physically demanding activities that you're not working out maybe, but you're still working.
So yoga I can see, hiking for sure. Horseback riding, I feel like that is pretty physically exerting for the horse. But especially depending, right?
Well, no, that
So
like the client I'm referring to, I mean, she's doing kind of the English equestrian. It's not quite as wild and crazy, maybe as Western horse riding, but
mm,
to kind of sit with that prim, proper posture while you have this 1,000-pound beast underneath you moving, and then
oh yeah, that was a total joke.
oh,
Like oh yeah, I was absolutely kidding on that one. Okay, so then what is your average? So for the person that's going to work out, say do the total body workout or do some kind of a split, what is your recommended amount of time that someone spends in the gym per session?
I mean, it doesn't have to be the gym, but wherever you're gonna be working out. I mean, I think 30 minutes would be ideal. It's one of those things. Like, I don't want to necessarily pin it down because you can make it work anyway. And depending on what your life is, if you can only get 15 minutes of a little bit of exercise here and there, like so be it. You're just going to try to need to get more of it. Now there comes to this point too where you got to get your heart rate up to a certain point
Mm-hmm.
to be able to hit different energy systems within the body, to be able to get that cardiovascular systems going as well, and those various stressors. So again, while you can try to do less with more or do more with less, that partly goes in hand in hand having a little bit more better understanding of what levers to pull.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I've seen you work a client out in 30 minutes and they were just about falling over. And part of the trick or the game is that lady never got a chance to just stand. For 30 minutes, her feet were constituted with some sort of, whether it's easy marching in place, little walking in place, or then full on high knees in place. I guess the one
Yeah,
time her feet were like not in place or not moving was like when she was in a yoga stance, like a forward
yeah.
bend or a deep lunge or, a
Mm-hmm.
chair pose. And so again, the body's never getting to rest within that abbreviated time. And so you can squeeze more out of a person, so to speak. You can squeeze more out of that time period, but you have to really understand what levers to push. And the other side of it is she had you watching over. So when things she can be a little absent minded, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not, that sounds ugly, I know, but when working with a trainer, you have that safety net of someone to slap you around when you start doing things wrong or start compensating. When you're doing it by yourself, just like anything, you're only as accountable to you as you hold yourself.
Yeah, yeah. It's a lot to pay attention to, right?
And there's that
Okay.
too.
Yeah.
But so to answer your question, I would say realistically, if you're new to the gym and you haven't been doing anything for at least 6 months or plus, I would say just try to get yourself in about 2 to 3 days a week, 30 minutes. See how that
Mm-hmm.
does, see how that feels, see how you feel. All right. The biggest thing I think you can do wrong is you do too much right off the jump. And then you have to talk to Paul.
Never be a shortage of that.
But no, in all
Um,
seriousness, like, have you done that to yourself where you've started a new hobby or a new exercise routine, or maybe you've just taken some time off and like, I got this, I know what I'm doing, and then like you just lay yourself up. I know
the
it may
so
be a minute. It may be a minute for you to think of some.
So the one time I can remember specifically, it's probably like 15 years ago
Okay.
when I was like, you know what? No, don't get me wrong. If I am making something in the kitchen and I discover like this new sauce that I made or something that tastes good, every fucking thing in the world is going to get that sauce on it for like weeks. You know what I mean?
Gotcha.
There were these like little ginger chews.
Oh, I love those
Like
things.
I like
Gin.
spicy. Yeah, gin gins. I like spicy shit, right? I love spicy shit. And these things are, depending on which strength you get, super spicy.
Mm-hmm.
And so for a couple of like 2.5 months or something, I was like ordering these things. And then finally, and I go through this cycle with it. But the last time anything ever really almost took me out was like 15 years ago. I was on this like steady streak of progressive overload and feeling really good about where I was as far as fitness and mobility went. I mean, I still feel good about that, right? I was just like I was feeling really good about it then, and I was remembering back to when I'd really challenged myself, and back when I was like a competitive martial artist, and when I was working out a whole lot, and I was like, man, I remember when I used to work out so hard, like I'd feel like I was about to like throw up. So I decided I was going to go back.
No.
So I decided I was going to like work out like that, right?
You're too old for that by
So,
that point.
So fast forward, maybe, I don't know, 45 minutes. And I am like dripping movie sweat, the kind of sweat you only get in a movie, or being in a hot car or something.
Or the gym
So
I
I was just
work out.
laying, what's that?
Or the gym I go to work out at.
Yeah. So I'm like laying there, like covered in sweat. And I'm just like heaving, like for breath. And I thought, why the fuck did I do that?
Oh, thank God. Thank God that was what you asked. Like, I can do some more.
No, I sat there and I was like, I was laying down. I was like, why the fuck did I do that? Like, for what? Now, look, the thing about working out for me and fitness and longevity for me, and quite frequently, because because of the way that I interact with people for my livelihood, for my career, I get asked often, what is your workout like, your personal workout, and then like why do you choose to do those things in that amount or that intensity or whatever? And my answer is always the same. I want to be harder to kill, right? I want to stay harder to kill.
Yeah.
Now, working out that hard, it's I don't know that it has any more tangible benefit from not working out quite that hard.
I mean, I could always make an argument again for depending on what one's, again, their goals.
Well, whatever your goals are,
right?
If I was going into some kind of competition, but I'm not, you know what I mean? Right. And the chance.
Now, that to be said, though, I still think it's beneficial though to push the body a little bit from time. Maybe not to the degree you did that day. Maybe 5% less, 10% less, depending on how you felt the next day specifically, or how you felt walking out of the gym. Like I always tell clients, like if you ever like are looking down at the stairs and you're cursing my name in the back of your head, like we did too much, like if you can't stand up off the toilet without like having to use the wall to help yourself up, or like you did too much. Or
no, I agree with that completely. You need to periodically challenge the limits that your body has. But that's the same with everything. Everything needs a stress test periodically. But to work out like that all the time,
no, fuck that.
You can't do that sustainably.
No.
I saw an interview, clip of an interview, not the whole interview, but with Henry Cavill, and he was doing some kind of true or false thing. And he said, true or false, you got down to 3% body fat when you were filming Superman. And he goes, well, I never got it measured, but I highly doubt that that's true. That's like competitive bodybuilder level, and you can't sustain that. There's a reason.
Like, there's a reason. As soon as those dudes and ladies get off the stage, they're not the women are at that 3%, but as soon as they get off that stage, man, they are pounding fucking Skittles and anything they can, because to get there, they have starved themselves so bad, like for at least a day, if not a couple days, and they've been super calorie restricted for weeks leading up to that. Right?
That's why whenever they're in the process up to that, you ever wonder why you see those big like circus tent hoodies and shit that they all
Oh
wear?
yeah, yeah,
'Cause they're cold.
yeah.
You
Freezing.
know? Yeah. Anyway, all that was a trip down the information highway. So I appreciate your indulging those questions, John.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Um, today we're going to talk about a couple of things. Um, three things. One of them being what in the fitness world is known as bias. I almost feel like bias is becoming a kind of a buzzword, right? Yeah, it's like this thing. It's like when suboptimal was making the rounds not too long ago. Oh, that's suboptimal. You know, it's just whatever.
Find the synergy, so that way
Right.
it's not suboptimal.
Right.
Right. So that way
What
you
we
don't
need to do,
bias.
yeah. What we need to do is simultaneously decode and encode. Anyway, so we're talking about bias. All we're talking about is the prioritization of a muscle or a muscle group for the completion of a task.
Right.
That's what bias means in these terms, right? Muscular bias. You can have two types. You can have a conscious bias or an unconscious bias. A conscious bias is whether or not you're aware of it. And a conscious bias is when you say something like, I need to pick up this box. And so you, instead of trying to build some elaborate contraption to pick up the box, you bend down maybe or reach down and pick up the box with your arms. That's consciously biasing your arms for the completion of the task, right? That's a movement bias. A muscular bias is something like when you go, I'm going to go do a bicep curl, like it's in the name.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like the bias is in the name. And it's really easy to get at that specific muscle, for especially when it has a singular bias. Now you might have other muscles that are stabilizing the movement, like in your forearm. I'm sorry, in your forearm is the way it controls, the way it stabilizes your wrist, or in your shoulder. But the conscious muscular effort is going to come from your bicep. You also might see people who do things like lean to one side when they're trying to execute a curl, or arch back when they're trying to execute a curl, or throw the hand up when they're trying to execute a curl. And those are variations or deviations or adaptations, but still the bias is in the bicep for the curl. Now you can choose to bias other things in a curl, like do a palms down curl to try and bias the muscle that sits underneath your biceps, which is your brachialis. But again, variations, deviations,
I don't think
adaptations.
that's why people choose that.
What's that?
People don't do it for that reason, Sir Paul.
Why? Why do people do it?
I think most people probably do because they think it works their forearms more, which it does. It works your supinators and your pronators a hell of a lot more, and it works that grip strength like crazy. But I don't think I don't think people, unfortunately, see it for that benefit.
Fair. However, now we have unconscious bias toward things. Like, let's go back to our picking up the box scenario. Mm-hmm. The conscious bias is using your arms to pick it up, and maybe even bringing it to picking it up, and like you're gonna bend your elbows, mm-hmm. bring your wrists further away from the floor. The unconscious bias is when you do things like pull it towards you and collapse it around it. Mm-hmm. Or you pull it towards you and then arch back while you're carrying it.
You get that weekend at Bernie's.
What's that?
Yeah, that weekend at Bernie's, or the drum major, kind of lean back and just.
Yes. So that's an unconscious bias where your body is trying to find this equilibrium toward, the most optimal way for it to sustainably carry this weight.
Now, the way I kind of think of it, it's kind of like trying to. Do we have areas that we choose to push and tether down, and try to have certain drivers, and then whenever it's, some of those areas, let's say, become untrue or no longer hold up true, right? Then it's like, I see it as a compensation.
Uh-huh.
And so this can be so talking like bicep curls, I'll be having to cue clients with not swinging the arms. Once we get not swinging the arms down, right, then it's not swaying the body.
Uh-huh.
And then the coup de grace is once we get our hands up here, as we allow the weight down, can we stay tall? Right? Because at the same time, what you find, to your point, right, we have these unconscious biases that we want the weights to go down. We don't necessarily think about our elbows straightening. And so what do?
Mm-hmm.
We hip hinge or we bend at our back, because all of this is lowering the weights. And then finally we get to a
making the weight travel. Yeah. I'll even go one further, which is that while we would optimally, not suboptimally, while we would optimally perform conscious bias into desired muscular executions for the completion of a task or an exercise or whatever, the thing that I find is very common is that we often have conscious biases resulting from unconscious biases.
Mm-hmm.
Like this. If you know that person who goes to the gym, that their most excited days are when they're going to go work arms and chest, right? And I don't really work my back or my legs. I hate doing that shit. The whole skip leg day thing over that, right? There's this devotion due to preference, or like when somebody goes, oh no, I don't want to do this exercise because I'm really weak in this, but however, I do want to do this exercise because I'm really strong in that, right? So that conscious bias toward the things that we're already good at results from this unconscious bias where that's making this other shit weak.
You know what you're making me think of?
What's that?
My buddy, he once asked me, he says, John, how do you figure out what you want to work on? And I thought about it, and I gave him some, very philosophical and egalitarian type answer, right? And he goes, I just figure out whatever I suck at, and I just work on that.
You said, or that's
what he said. I go,
that's
well, yes, that's exactly, yes. Thank you.
So, whenever I'm teaching a yoga class, and I've been asked the question hundreds of times, what's the best yoga class? What's the best yoga practice for me to do? Right, for me. And I go, and my answer is what it always has been, and it will always be. Choose the shit you suck at and do it only on the side where you're the worst.
Yep.
So it's not enough if you can do this one way and then not the other way. If you can do this one way, but like this way you can't do, then do this on this side and don't do it on the other one. Right? That's the practice.
Right.
Figure out all the shit you're bad at and then do it on the side where you're the worst only.
Mm-hmm.
That's conscious bias because of unconscious bias that you've actually that you've demonstrated, like in a habituated pattern over the course of a long period of time.
So we were talking about guitar playing last week. Specifically, we were talking about a hand that would spasm at a specific position. Mm-hmm. But more that comes to mind, I mean, that obviously is a very, I think, singular or highlightable or very real. But the more, I guess, broad sense would be just the position of playing guitar, right?
Yeah.
In itself, again, depending on how long we play that guitar, is going to set us up for many unconscious biases, despite
because of a conscious effort, right? Yeah.
Elsewhere, and especially, I think that's what's kind of sneaky for people is we don't think about our guitar playing or sitting in our computer desk necessarily having any effects on our bodies in the gym, but really and truly, we're setting the stage up in a lot of cases, especially if we're doing something for 8 hours a day, like. I used to always ask my clients, do you like stress? Yeah, neither does your body, right? Like exercise is stress. That's why you don't like doing it. That's why no one wants to do it. That's why we always go with the lighter weight or whatever easiest for us. And that's why it's this big whole ordeal for people to like put more weight on it, right? And do more reps or whatever it is. Well, like when we stand or whatever, we're stressing our bodies. It's mild stress, but over time we're gonna shift because it's tiring. And when we're shift from here, eventually this is gonna start getting tiring for whatever reason, and then we shift somewhere else. Right. And then we will constantly kind of squirm, and sometimes we'll ball ourselves up into these little like cocoons with our ankles crossed underneath our hips, and we're leaning funky on the desk, and the entire time we've been doing this for 2 or 3 hours, and then when we get out it's like in some weird stretch, but we still have a
We were traveling one time and we had the extreme good fortune to meet with a local in the area where we were, who was acted as our tour guide, right? Like just really, really fortunate. And I was talking to him and I asked him like, how often, are you driving? Do you do this a lot? And he was like, yeah, this is all I do, and it was a great bargain, and he was very friendly, and we became friends, and we still talk like we still talk today. This was years ago. But all he did all day, all the time was drive. And so it happened that whenever he would get out of the car and stand up, and he had a van that he drove people around him, whenever he'd get up and stand around, go ahead, all the time, nonstop, right? A conscious action or a conscious bias getting away from discomfort because of the unconscious biases that happened while he was driving. It was nonstop with his eyes close to his chest. So we didn't talk about the difference between conscious and unconscious biases. And the whole thing is that, the more complex an exercise movement gets, in other words, the more joints that are involved in stabilizing or moving the body or the weight or whatever, the more precise the detailing is that has to occur in order for us to consciously bias one thing or another. So it's always a benefit whenever you can cue yourself or whoever you're working with into an alignment whose parameters will unconsciously bias whatever muscles you're after. And then at the completion of whatever part of the rep or the motion, the client or you yourself will be very in touch with when the sensory impact to that target muscle begins or when it ends. And that's ideal, right? You want to get into a position where you don't really have to think about it.
Right, ideally.
Yeah. And you can pay attention to your breath, controlled, slow, steady movements, right? And reducing the necessity of you concentrating as much as possible on a checklist of 27,000 things.
I think you just hit a nail on the head for me, as far as like I have. Disdain's probably a little too strong of a word.
Yeah, what
disdain may be a little bit too strong of a word.
Okay.
But it's one of these things when I'm seeing people trying to squat, 250 or even anything above 100 pounds with squat shoes. There's part of me that just dies inside, because I feel a lot of times we're using these squat shoes to bypass a bigger mobility issue. And it's like it'd be like saying like you're 100,000 because your credit limit is 100,000.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah, you can go spend $100,000 and you can go have $100,000 worth of shit, but do you have $100,000 to go pay off your credit card bill? And I feel that's a little bit like with squat shoes a lot of times, or even weight belts. Is a lot of times we use these squat shoes and these weight belts to be able to hold us in those positions, which is fine in its place in a lot of times. But I feel it steals overall one's ability to have a good longevity to themselves, so to speak. because ultimately we're going to be we're sacrificing our calves in a lot of cases. We're not training our calves in that way in a full
Mhm.
range of motion, so that's going to create ankle issues and foot dysfunctions down the line.
Mhm.
We're very likely we're going to have some other issues happening there as well. And then anytime you don't have those shoes on, like that's all I always tease people is you lift all the time with a weight belt, and then your grandma asks you to go move a couch, or your mom asks you to pick up a box. Like, oh, hold on, Granny, gotta go
Let
get
me
my
go get
weight
my
belt.
gear. Yeah.
Click.
Yeah. Right. Okay, so to that point, let's further demonstrate the nuance of conscious bias versus unconscious bias. So let's say you're going for a back squat and you unrack this weight, take your steps back, and you go down into this squat. Now, going down into it, there's lots of recruitment. There's an adequate distribution of effort, and and balancing and mass displacement to enable you to go down into the squat. What is reasonably well. Coming back up though, when you're in the weakest part of several of these muscles, because you've gone from the strong expressions to the weak expressions,
Mm-hmm.
and then when you're trying to come back up, you then go, well, there's that little bitty bit of this is too much for me.
Yep.
Right. Oh shit! I can't get down here with the same flawless form that I got. I can't go back up with the same flawless form that I got down here with. So there's the ass raise, or there's the knee bend, or the pitch, or the lean forward, or whatever.
Right.
That is a conscious bias. That's the conscious recruitment of something that was not involved along the way.
Hopefully
Right?
it's conscious, right?
What's that?
Hopefully it's conscious.
Hopefully, yeah. Well, hopefully it's conscious.
Not to be pedantic with you, and a lot of times, for again new lifters, right? We hit that wall, or they hit that wall, and they don't realize that their knee buckles in. They don't realize maybe they kind of corkscrew up.
Okay, true, fair enough. So that is an unconscious. I guess what I'm trying to say then is that is a conscious decision or a conscious effort to get the movement done no matter what.
Right. Okay.
Like that. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. It's a conscious, like, oh, I've got to get this out. So there's this. Your body will do whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
You don't necessarily think. Yes, absolutely. You don't necessarily think if I turn my knee this way, or if I throw my ass up in the air this way, that's going to enable me to get it done.
Right, but we definitely, again, when we get those, and I think too, part of it comes too is understanding that the lift changes. Like we're no longer doing the same exercise now.
Yeah.
Right, and it's okay to hit that wall. In fact, like more people probably should hit that wall. I should hit that wall more often. Not to the point where we're, about to vomit and we're asking ourselves why the hell we did this. But, if we're going through a good program and we're going through good periodization and we're progressively overloading and we're doing a smart overload, I like Dr. Andy Galpin's version where it's you hit the upper range of your rep count and you keep going till you can't. And then the next set you add 2% or 2.5% load, and then you go again. And you can't hit your bottom range limit, right? Then you can drop weight. But just very tiny increases or as small increases as you can. And you just finally hone into that place. And then when you finally kind of get to those places where it's like, again, you have that conversation to your point, Paul. Holy shit, this is too much. This is too much. This is too much. That's where, too, you can really try to bite down, so to speak, and bear down and really call on the desired biases. Like you can really try to start feeling that push of your feet through the floor. If it's a squat, really trying to feel your glutes activating and driving yourself straight up the elevator shaft, not going up the escalator. Right. And if you can really start working that sense, man, it is a wild ride in some senses, because you'll feel some kind of motor units kicking on in muscles maybe. And you'll get a real good like developmental aspect from it. Like your CNS will really get connected to these things. But to your point, if you do that double down effort and you can't, and you don't have the energy, and those motor units are already taxed or you're too taxed, that's why safety bars are there.
I feel like whenever you do this in post, you should put number one, have your safety bars on, right? Like, yeah. So now that we've covered all that, there is this.
Nope, I think I'm losing you.
Really? Oh,
okay.
Am I still here on the stream?
You're still here. I just think
Oh, there we go.
I don't know if it's my feed or.
No, I can see it now.
Cool.
Well, then it froze again.
Son of a.
Oh, no. Okay.
Oh, no.
Well, as far as I know, I'm still here.
Kind of like life, huh?
At any rate. Right. So at any rate, the thing is that the thing that's going to get closest to kind of a magic bullet that you're going to get is, like we talked about earlier, positioning everything from the get-go so that as much as possible is optimally unconsciously biased, right? So
like a goblet squat is a good version of this, right?
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Right, so a goblet squat is really nice in a lot of cases because it helps keep people a little bit more upright in the squat variation when they're trying to squat. So when we're trying to get a good squat in, having again that goblet squat, it has there's this conservation of gravity basically happening. And because we're front loaded with, and it only takes most people about 10 pounds or so, 10 to 15 pounds is typically enough for most beginners. Because otherwise then it becomes like a shoulder and a bicep workout. So we get about that 10 pounds and then you can lower yourself down in the squat and you can still have a crappy squat with this, but chances are you're going to stay more flat footed. You'll be able to better achieve staying your weight back versus being so kind of quad driven or toe driven in your squat, leaning forward. And other things you can even play with is I've done this with real lightweight with clients. You do like 5 pounds or so, and then you just reach your arms out in front. And again, now you're creating this big shift. So it really helps kind of get one to help sink their hips further back in a sense of kind of offsetting like the weight that they're using as a counterweight, as it were. Now, a lot of times though, what do people say this is for training quads, right?
So that's kind of the whole thing of it, right? We're looking for as much as possible to make as much as possible unconscious.
Right.
It gives us less to think about as long as the unconscious biases produce optimal recruitment. Now,
it's like a front rack squat. Sorry, I was just saying, like a front rack squat is a really great exercise for so many people. Like more people should do front rack. I'm talking about, the worst thing that you're at and nothing. Oh yeah,
the thing that you suck at the most, do more of.
Front rack squat. I guarantee you that's like maybe 5% of the population probably has a decent enough front rack position to even attempt it properly without doing some sort of modification, variation of holding the rack and the bar. So in that one though, again, people will use it thinking they're developing their quads, even though their entire leg's working, and then they end up driving forward. Again, people who are going to be doing front rack squats are very likely going to be using squat shoes. That it just tends to be that way. And so we're already now also going to be putting more biases, putting weight in the toes, very likely, and kind of this launching forward aspect, because now, again, this weight's in front of us. And if we're not properly training ourselves how to countersink and understand that mechanism, it can be actually real hell for the whole body.
Yeah. Yeah. So while you want to unconsciously bias as much as possible, it really does help starting off where before you start the movement or switching around your hand placement or the weight placement or whatever, why you're doing that, and then you don't unconsciously fight against it.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so I used to have this thing that I would talk about whenever I was teaching self defense, right? I called it resistance is assistance,
Mm-hmm.
and basically stated if someone's got a hold of me, and for whatever reason I have decided that it's beneficial for them to move that way,
Mm-hmm.
I will try and get them to move that way.
Yeah.
And then they'll commit to this pulling away action, and then I can go through with whatever it is that I want, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it helps if I understand like what the setup is. How do I want it to go, and then I can initiate the efforts to make that unconscious reaction occur in whatever it is that I'm dealing with.
Yeah, it makes me feel like a superhero in jiu-jitsu when I get that right. just launch some dude across the room.
Right.
All you is this little push pull. Just push them.
Push and a pull. Yeah. Yep. So and that's it makes you feel superheroic, right? So the big thing to remember is that while you can unconsciously bias things, that doesn't mean that you completely check out. It means that you position yourself in a way that the expression requires as little check-in from you as possible. Yeah. So we're about to watch a video where a guy is talking about if you want to target your whatever, do this. If you want to target your whatever, do this. And while all of that may, on the surface level, help, it does nothing if you don't know why. Now, this guy is obviously in great shape. Mm-hmm. And with your body upright, you primarily work the quads. If you hold a dumbbell and like this, and you'll more of the glutes. Now, like I said, this guy's in great shape. There is no arguing that.
Ooh.
Right? Okay. So if we're watching this, and he's talking about when you hold your hands in different positions, you'll find that it targets more of this or that. And that is true, but if you were to do that way, you would have to consciously bias whatever it is, right? Or what he's aiming for is giving people a cheat for unconsciously biasing X, Y, or Z. Simply holding the dumbbell this way or the dumbbell this way, or hinging in a certain way is going to do whatever. Now, some of those are not like the others. So if you're in the deadlift kind of position,
right, it'll be more of a glute hip hinge.
Yeah, like no matter what, it doesn't matter if you're straightening up with a slight bend in the knee.
Now, what I will say though is like I've used some of these techniques with clients in that sense of like a suitcase deadlift or a suitcase squat. Mm-hmm. I love using that for clients, especially when they have issues with valgus knees, because it unconsciously will drive their knees inward and make worse valgus knees. So that way they feel their valgus knees, and that way they can consciously bias their knees and not valgus and keep their knees nice and wide. So, using little tricks like that as it were to help, as you're saying, assist and help the body. Or I've had other clients that are really bad about collapsing in the stomach. So good mornings are really good training assistants. Mm-hmm. So again, now we're more like that goblet squat variation, holding it up here and doing our deadlift form. And this again will hit different muscle activations in that because we're loaded at our shoulders and we're upright, taking a hip hinge like a forward bend, right? All of our erectors are going to be staying in a lengthened position to keep us from collapsing into our stomach with that weight up there. Whereas if we do hold it down, our center of mass is going to be different. So it's just going to be a little bit more glute hamstringy as we load up. It's not to say our erectors aren't engaged or a part of it, right? Because I think of our spine as like a crane system. Mm-hmm. And all the muscles in our back when they're active are keeping our spine up and out. It's kind of like it was that movie Deuce Bigelow or whatever, that he ties that chick's hair to the chair so she doesn't fall into her soup.
I have Wait, was that with
Rod
Andrew Dice Clay?
Schneider. Rod
Oh
Schneider.
no, I never saw that movie. I
You're not
generally
missing much.
avoid. I generally avoid films with said actor.
But yeah, he has a date with a narcolepsy lady, and she keeps falling asleep. And so what he does is ties her long hair to the chair. So when she does fall asleep, she just. Anyways, that's what I envision when I'm talking about people and their spines. Is we don't want to be like the narcolepsy lady and let our spine just kind of fall forward into the soup. We want to be active in our spines and be engaged. That to bring this all.
Well, okay. So in conclusion, the thing is like you were saying, right? There's these things that we consciously commit to, and like this guy is trying to get us to unconsciously bias whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing to remember is that whatever magic bullet might work, or whatever mechanism might work for someone when they when they devote their grip to kind of a different placement or kind of a different carriage, when the hands are positioned in a certain way, that it will influence meaningfully the recruitment of whatever in the lower body. It doesn't always guarantee that, right? That is not a guarantee for unconscious bias. And again, the guy said, let's go back to what the guy said. If you grip this way, it will do this thing, which is the right idea. There's none of those things are untrue, as long as you know where it's supposed to go, and then you are able to more effectively put your weight into the heels.
Definitely leaving out a lot of details. Because even a thought I was having too is, how are you going to perform when you don't have that weight in your hands?
Right.
When you have to go, so you need to go pick up something off the ground. So you're unloaded without your body. How do you get down there without that 10 or 15 pounds versus once you pick it up and then stand up with it, right? It's just a little different navigations. So I think it's a big thing is understanding that proprioception of you're using this as a tool to get yourself into a good position. Be down there, feel yourself, make sure we're in a good position. I always tease people, you get to the bottom of your squat or whatever and be down there, just take a smell, take a view of the scenery, take a picture, whatever it is, have a taste, talk to the locals, and then stand up. But that gives us time to assess, are we all in our toes? Are we all in our heels? Are we rolling out on the edges of our feet? Are our knees blowing out wide? Are we caving our knees in? Are we caving around the spine? Are we collapsing our chest? Is it a lot to work about and think about? Yes. And to your point, that a goblet squat helps us with some of that. And it helps maybe truncate that list a little bit. But every rep, there should be 2 or 3 things we're checking on, I feel. No matter what the rep is. And some of us are going to have specific things that are always. Like, so for me, my always right now is like my shoulder and making sure I'm not winging or it's flaring or anything on that kind of note. And then I'm maybe just making sure my core is engaged. And then depending on the exercise, I'm worried about, are my knees moving forward or not? Depending on, again, like a deadlift, I want to make sure my knees are staying. Maybe a Romanian, I'm really working on keeping my knees over my ankles. On a squat, I'm trying to make sure that my knees are going over my toes.
So that brings up the most important point, right? You want to make as much as possible as unconscious as possible. But the point of it all is that you have to pay a little attention.
Yeah.
Not the least of which all of those things that we've already talked about. But the one thing that we didn't address, I have a guy that I work with who is 6'3".
Oh wow.
I'm 5'10". Whatever. I've worked with people who are taller than that.
No,
he's 6'3". I'm 5'10". Our legs are the same length.
Like me and my wife.
Right.
And our torsos, I think, are the same height or something like that, but her legs are shorter or longer than mine.
Yeah. So yeah, me and this guy that I work with, 6'3", 5'10". Our thighs, our thigh bones, and our lower leg bones are the same length. Our knees are the same distance from the floor.
Right.
And so that informs how he has to carry weight. So all of the things that this guy mentioned, for instance, they have to be adjusted in order for those biases to be
that
able
becomes
to occur.
the old classic argument of, what's a proper squat or what's the proper depth of a squat. And I know it's a legitimate argument, but I see a lot of posts of people complaining about their squat and I have long femurs. I'm not saying you don't have long femurs. If you do have long femurs, it's going to completely change the equation. However, if we keep to kind of a certain plan or a kind of a structure of what a squat is, where we hip hinge and we keep our weight in our heels and we bend the knees forward and we keep the hinge going, right? You just go till certain rules can no longer be held true anymore.
And that's the big thing, right? You go until certain rules can no longer hold true. When you don't do that, you get into bargaining.
Yep.
Like,
no, it's the thing. I always tell my clients, like, if we're especially on chest press, that's, I always have them keep your shoulders down and it's going to feel like you can go further. And I always tease, like I always do, like what they're saying in their head to, I don't know, entertain myself.
oh yeah. Yeah.
And I go, but I go further, John. And I said, I know, but just keep your shoulders on the ground, right? It feels like you're shortchanging yourself in some regards because you still have all of this space, so to speak, to travel, but we're trying to keep it to the chest. We're trying to keep a stable shoulder, trying to keep our joints healthy, right? And so we're going to limit how far we're going to go, as it were, even though we feel like we can go further or take it further. Now, you probably, we're going to see it otherwhere too, like in a squat where, I'll stop climbing. That squats are going to be difficult because there's this, I feel maybe a bit of an ego aspect, not like big and macho ego, but like I'm a functioning human ego, and I should be able to go deeper into this kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so very commonly, like I'll see a hip hinge and a squat and they may get about about halfway through their squat and then they start compensating. And then I'm like, whoa. They're like, what? I can still go. I'm fine. I don't feel anything in my back. I'm fine. It's like, no. We got the whole butt wink thing going. Your knees caving in and you're twisting.
I think it would be fair to say that much of the bargaining, the internal and external bargaining that takes place, is due to our tendency to put in our minds that achievement is the goal, and not execution is the goal.
That's why my last stream actually was, I titled it was execution or completion.
Oh, there you go. Right. That's it. Right. Execution versus completion. And now, just like biases have unconscious and conscious iterations, so does bargaining. Mm-hmm. Unconscious and conscious iterations. I had a client that came to me who was debilitated with regard to running. Had a really inflamed flexor hallucis. If you want to look it up, you can.
Calf muscle, right?
It's in the calf.
Calf and foot.
It's around the calf and goes, underneath the heel and up to the big toe. Anyway, had a really inflamed flexor hallucis. And I said, oh, this is, she was certain that she had torn her Achilles. And I was like, well, the fact that you walked in here. Yeah. Right. And your foot's not really. Yeah. Your foot's, not, like just collapsing on something. I go, but it would seem that this muscle is way overused. And if you were to ask me, I would say I'd probably give it like a week to recuperate and just, lay off of it. You can still work out, just don't run, Yeah. And I would also probably get some new shoes if you've had those shoes for a while, all the things. If you're curious about what all, the hand gesture and all the things encompasses, feel free to drop us a line. But for now, it was just all the things that can positively affect an outcome. And she said, I can't do that. And she goes, well, what if I just didn't run today? And I was like,
hit Control C.
Right.
Control V, Control V, Control V, Control V, Control V, Control V.
Exactly.
Control V.
Yeah. So I was like, sure. I don't know who you're bargaining with. Yeah. Well, the same thing takes place when we're trying to go for a movement, and like John was illustrating with a bench press. You pull your shoulders back, your shoulders back, and depress the shoulders away from the ears. So retraction, depression in the shoulder blades, so that your shoulders are stable. And that way, you simultaneously limit your range of motion and bias the proper muscles. Right? You do one by doing the other, and they just kind of circle each other. Now, the thing there is that if you're feeling like, I mean, you know, you might have some emotional or personal shit to kind of work through, or you have some idea that the rep isn't completed until you are no longer physically able to move something, right? Like you are skeletally limited, not muscularly limited. So then you start bargaining. Well, I can do just a little more, or let me readjust and then I can do this. You know, when you went through 6 or 8 or 10 reps or whatever, hang on, I just need to get my foot. No, the set's done.
Yep.
There's no bargaining there that's going to be beneficial.
Right.
You know, when you go, in picture that, you know, you've gone to a medical doctor and they've said, well, you need this round of antibiotics. And they're like, how long is that? And you say, how long is that? And they go, it's going to be a week. You go, what about 3 days? There's no bargaining with that. It's not available. Bargaining is incompatible with realization of the overall positive effect, right? They can't exist next to each other. Go ahead.
I think it's good though to question for understanding purposes.
Stress testing, always good.
And not even stress test. So I mean too though is, you know, just kind of find those boundaries. I guess that's what you mean though, is like find your boundaries and gently approach them. I think, you know, I got one client, he's itching to get, he's kind of similar boat actually. This turned out to be something more in the TFL versus, I mean, not to say he doesn't have tightness in his calves, but it's kind of interesting that it found that brevity in his TFL, and it has a lot to do with how he sits and drives. Anyways, getting off subject, but he's really itching to get back to running, cardiovascular issues and things of that nature, and he enjoys it and wants to get back to tennis. And it's always kind of like, I just kind of look at him and go, I don't really want to be the bearer of bad news, sir, but you've already played this game once with yourself, and you saw how it worked out, right? Like, do we need to really prove it to ourselves again? And there's this thing of gradually building into it. And that earlier I was asking you about, have you ever, you know, started a workout routine or program where you bit off more than you chewed? I've done this like numerous times. Like I'm that dumbass. So high school football practice, there was one time, and that was probably more of just being overpressed and overheated, not so much deconditioning and hopping in something new. But I remember vomiting at the gas station afterwards. But the most like readily available for me was definitely, you know, the CrossFit and giving myself rhabdomyolysis, right? Where I couldn't like wash my hair and my pee was so bubbly it touched the seat. Yeah.
That's bubbly.
That's bubbly.
Yeah.
Also look like Coca-Cola. So all things bad. Drink lots of water. I drink a lot of water. And I think I got to the hospital, and by that time everything was okay. And they were like, "Why are you here, sir?"
Well,
but all that to be said, though, is, you know, it's easy to overdo it, especially at the beginning of something. And so trying not to, I mean, it's easy enough to overdo it, but then when we know we have limitations, like understanding and accepting them for that's what it is today, and that we're going to work towards something else, and we're working towards a deeper squat or a fuller squat, or to being able to run again. But if we don't have this foundation fixed, you can paint the walls all you want, the sheetrock's still going to crack.
Yep. The way that I like to describe that is, you know, we're probably misguided by what we see in, you know, like media, like movies, social media representations or whatever. And like we unlock achievements, you know, like as soon as you are able to do this, you've busted through, and the next week you're going to be able to do that. I had a friend of mine say that recently, like this is last week, I think, that she sent me a message, you know, just check in. how's it going? Tell me about life with her family and all that. And then she said, I have turned over a new leaf since the summer where I am not like, I've just stopped taking shit from people. And I said, oh, what does that look like? Tell me what that looks like. Do you find that what was a catalyst event? Do you find that it's difficult to make yourself congruent across all levels of interaction? Do you find that it's harder for you to do that with family members or people that you've known a long time? And she wrote back, and she's a very, very thoughtful person. So those answers were just ready, right? She was like, oh, yeah, and was very, very clear about it all. But that's what real breaking of your limits looks like. It's a slow and steady progression, right?
Mm.
This week, just because you were bench pressing 100 pounds and now you bench press 102, that doesn't mean that tomorrow you're going to be ready to do 110 or 105 or whatever. You might at some point, you're number one, you're going to reach your muscular limit. Number two, you try to push it any more than that, you'll start deviating and compensating and bargaining and consciously biasing other shit, and then very, very likely find yourself injured. The thing to remember is that bargaining most often doesn't lead, most often. Now, in matters of financial solvency or whatever, sure, maybe. But with regard to health and fitness and mobility and longevity, bargaining most often leads to stagnation because it introduces a set of scenarios where certain things are consciously biased for long enough that they eventually can't bear the load anymore. And then you get into this cycle of bargaining, a perception of development or achievement or whatever. Mm-hmm. And then what ends up occurring is those things get overloaded and can no longer perform. And so you are functioning at some percentage of what you're actually able to if you had accepted that busting your limits, breaking through your limits is a slow and steady thing, right? It's trying to nail it, the flaps of a tent down in the wind.
Yeah. I was just thinking, there's no Xbox award for bench pressing 315, right?
Yeah,
there is no Steam award that comes through. There ain't going to be like Nobel Peace Prize, Guinness Book of World Records ain't going to be knocking on your door as soon as you hit that. Like, no one's going to give a damn other than you and your friends. And I can't do it. Like, I've not ever worked for it, and I don't think my frame and body could get there, nor do I really care to. But, like, that being said, it is impressive. It is very awesome. But at the same time, how did we get there? And if we're having to get there by overextending our back, or we're overextending our rib cage to make it more of a decline press, if we're internally rotating our shoulders to be able to create the leverages, like, you're going to have to pay for that eventually. If you're not already, and you very much are likely paying for it in some ways, whether you, again, are realizing it or not. But if I have a feeling if we look at a lot of guys who lift probably too heavy for their well-being, you're going to see a lot of similar things, not just in their form and technique, but their accessories. So you'll very likely see a lot of elbow sleeves, knee sleeves, and other types of wraps.
Yep.
And it's because they have pain, and they're using those things to help minimize the pain. And so again, it's kind of like having a car with a flat tire, and all you do is you just keep re-airing up the tire, and you just keep wondering why the tire goes flat. Like, you got to do something different other than just airing up the tire. You got to go check out the tire. You see what's going on and go build from there.
So I hope that we've covered a couple of really important and affecting topics, right? How then do we figure out a way to optimally recruit what we need to in any given exercise? What do we look out for so that we don't start bargaining? What's the best thing for us to investigate in order for us to get to a place where we know our spots where we're weak, we know where our tendencies are to bargain, and we know we can have a curated response to that, right? Something that is made just for us.
I was thinking of how to get to Carnegie Hall the entire time until your last sentence there.
Is that a joke? Oh, practice. Okay. Yeah. Well, yes, 100%. Right. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. Right. I don't condone
Eating elephants.
eating elephants. Um, we here at Range Fitness Online do not condone the consumption anyway. Whatever.
I bought my dad an elephant mask from Thailand. It's carved out of wood. It's a little wall.
Oh yeah. We did that when we went there. Like went and hung out with the elephants and bathed them.
The elephants, but there was some tchotchkes, hand carved Taiwanese.
Gotcha.
Thai. Don't mind the stickers though.
Well, that thing where you're like learning all about the elephants and they take you through a ride, on a ride through the jungle, depending on the preserve where you're at, it's important because, a lot of them, some of them are not great, but you get some that are really concerned about preservation and education and all that. And at the end, these elephants just walk straight into this like huge pond, straight up in there.
Yep.
And you're on them. And they give you clothes to change into, right? You got to leave your clothes at the thing. They give you clothes to change into. You just walk right into this lake, and then they hand you these big like
you pay to wash elephants, right?
You pay to wash elephants. Now the whole time, you have these guys called the mahut that are the caretakers that are feeding the elephants while you're scrubbing the shit out of these elephants.
Shit off of the elephants.
And shit off of the elephants. And the elephants are shitting all in this lake, all in this like pond with you in there.
Oh yeah.
But I will tell you, we're just all like on the bus ride back, we're all quiet, because everybody's like, what did I just do? Because we didn't know we were gonna do that. Anyway, you get out of the lake, you walk in, they give you stuff to shower with and all that, but you're in that lake for like, 45 minutes, an hour, something like that. Scrubbing these elephants.
No, thank you.
Yeah.
They were washing themselves before us. They can wash.
You get out, you shower off, they give you all the things, and we're all on the van ride back, feeling like we've just been violated. And then I'm kind of like doing like this, and my wife looks at the woman. There's a couple, a man and a woman that traveled with us, and my wife looks back at the other one. She goes, "Does your skin feel really soft?" And she goes, "Yes." Oh my God. And I was like, "Mine too. What the hell?" Yeah. So,
elephant poop.
Elephant poop. I'm not condoning the use of elephant poop for soft skin either. So don't do it. It was just an aside. Anyway, so there's a lot, as we've covered, right? Before you even lifted a weight, before you've even moved your body in a way that you hope is developmental for your capability or your strength level or whatever, there's figuring out what to do. There's figuring out what to bias. There's figuring out what to avoid, right? There's what you're doing. There's what you want to make sure that you're biasing, and there's what you want to make sure you are avoiding. Now, that is a difficult thing to figure out on your own. And not all of us have the money for a trainer, or we need something supplemental because, even if you can meet with a trainer, oftentimes it's like, because of your schedule, the trainer's schedule, or finances, you can only meet with the trainer 1 or 2 times a week or a month or whatever. Mm-hmm. So at Range Fitness Online, we have developed an AI prompt. We've been working on it. And what you do is if you go to our website, rangefitnessonline.com, and you sign up for the email prompt, we will send it to you free. All you got to do is scroll down to the bottom of our homepage and enter your email address, and then we will send you a message along with the prompt. This is the lean mean plan that actually works. So you enter this information in, you fill out the stuff that's on the prompt, and as it pertains to you, and it lets you know, it talks about what your limitations are, what you're after, what you hope to achieve. And we will copy it, we will send it over to you, and then you can fill it out and put it into an AI of your choosing. And all you have to do is visit our website, give us your email address. We will never sell your information. We're not going to use it to keep an eye on you. But we will let you know about updates to the AI prompt as we have them. If we improve on it, we'll send you a new version, and then you can give us your feedback and let us know how it works for you. Again, you can find that on rangefitnessonline.com, and it's at the bottom of the homepage.
Sounds good. And as
All
always,
right.
y'all, stay mindful as fuck.
And don't compensate. Sir John?
Take care, Sir Paul. Have a great night.
All right, man.
See you next
too.
time.
All right, man. Take it easy.
Ah!